When human beings look at a painting or a web page or any complex combination of elements, we see the whole before we see the individual parts that make up that whole. This idea of seeing the whole before the parts, and even more the whole becoming more than the sum of its parts, is Gestalt. Visual perception is a result of organizing sensory elements or forms into various groups. Discrete elements within a scene are combined and understood by the brain through a series of Gestalt principles. Dr. Stone has defined many of these Gestalt principles. In this presentation, I want to look at a few that he's defined and one that I found as well. And I want to look at and see how they apply to HCI. The Gestalt principle of similarity says that elements that are similar are perceived to be more related than elements that are dissimilar. Looking at similarity in practice, two possibilities in design could be size and color. Time's homepage has similar size images in the first and second columns. The size of these images create organization, and the bigger images in the second column indicate more pressing stories. In the second example, these UI elements are using similarity in color to help group sections and create unity. Proximity occurs when elements are placed close together. They are often perceived as a group. As with similarity, proximity helps us organize objects by their relatedness to other objects. Proximity is the strongest principle for indicating relatedness of objects, helping us understand and organize information faster and more efficiently. In the first example from Zappos, proximity is apparent in the navigation, as the categories are grouped by their closeness. Additionally, the first column is using proximity as the text elements are placed together, and the headings help for effective grouping. Another big key in proximity is white space. Leaving space or empty space between elements can create proximity and effective groupings. In the second example, white space is used between the keypads to add in proximity. Each section is easy to see and navigate as like functions are placed close together, creating effective groupings. We tend to follow continuous, uninterrupted movement, following elements that are aligned in straight lines or curves. We perceive these elements as related groupings more so than we do elements in lines and curves that are unaligned. This is called continuation. Continuation is occurring in our first example from Eastbay's website, as the shoes are nicely aligned, making us follow the path from left to right. Our eye is guided through each row, grouping them together. In addition, the shoes are pointing in the same direction, pushing us to follow this flow. Continuation can also be seen in the second example when we are looking at the Apple's App Store. Even though the first few apps are only visible, continuation happens as we know which direction the grouping is making our eye flow, from left to right, and aiding in the interaction. Closure is when an object is incomplete or a space is not completely enclosed. If enough of the shape is indicated, people perceive the whole by filling in the missing information. As seen in the continuation slide, the App Store also gives us a sense of closure, as our mind fills in the missing part of the last app in each row. When it comes to icons, we can also see closure. As with the email envelope, we can see that not all of the parts are there, and our mind naturally fills in the rest. Additionally, products have a logo, and some use closure as a way to engage our perception. The FedEx with the arrow between the E and the X, and the Apple's bite taken from the apple use closure to engage our perception. The idea of focal points is similar to the pre-attentive processing theory, making an object stand out from its surrounding. Focal point is whatever stands out visually will capture and hold the viewer's attention first. In the examples above, this idea is just demonstrated in the call to action buttons. How the buttons are positioned, grouped within the text, and the contrast that is created with color help lead the viewer's eye. In this digital audio workstation example, we can see Gestalt at work, helping to make this robust interface easier to comprehend and use. Grouping the sliders creates proximity and similarity. The colored buttons in each of the row aid in grouping with similarity. The way the interface flows from left to right creates continuation. And the top section is grouped into 3 sections, creating common regions. Using multiple principles makes grouping and reading interfaces much easier and usable. This is an example of a lack of Gestalt. In 2015 Miss Universe contest, Steve Harvey accidentally announced the wrong winner. It's easy to see why, as there is ineffective grouping, and this caused an error. The use of the Gestalt principles could have simply grouped these more efficiently and prevented this mistake.